It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
But it highlights to me how important it is that we really work with our kids on helping them to utilise their screens in ways that don't interfere with how we function in our family and in our relationships.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Hello, this is Dr. Justin Coulson, the founder of happyfamilies.com.au. Friday morning, at least if you listen to this on the time that it drops, it's Friday morning and the weekend is just around the corner. I'm here with Kylie, who's smiling because the weekend's nearly here.
No, I'm actually smiling because I finally kicked you out of the house.
Right. Okay, so I'm officially in an office for the first time ever. I've always worked from home and now I'm working in an office, and I have to say I miss you, and you might be smiling, but I don't like it. I like being able to...
No, I'm not saying that I don't like you in my... Yes, I am.
That's what I'm hearing. You like it when I'm not around. That's what I'm hearing.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I like it when you have your space and I have my space.
Right. In other words, you like it when I'm not around.
Well, in Brisbane, you had your space and I had my space, and we could come together whenever we wanted to throughout the day, and I love that.
Yeah, but now I'm a K and a half down the road.
But we're in a tiny little house now and we don't have that option. So you stealing a bedroom, one of 3 bedrooms we have.
For my office, it wasn't working, was it?
No, it wasn't. So That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Kylie, today is I'll Do Better Tomorrow. It's the podcast where we have a conversation about what we've learned during the week as we've tried to be intentional about our parenting so that we can reflect and be better next time we try to raise children, next time we're involved in the art of parenting. So we received some feedback, some email via podcasts at happyfamilies.com.au in response to our podcast on Monday morning. Australia, we have a smacking problem. It was a really important conversation to begin, and it continues now with some anonymous feedback from someone who doesn't mind us using the voice memo but would prefer not to be named.
Hi, Justin and Kylie. Thank you so much for your recent podcast, Australia Has a Smacking Problem. It got me thinking a lot about a situation where I've watched a friend hit a child, and to watch a child be so hurt and distressed and mortified and shaken, it's absolutely horrible, and we're all different. Some of us support it and some of us don't, but I'm ashamed to say that I did watch it and not speak to my friend about it. Anyway, I wanted to know your thoughts, and thanks again.
So Kylie, do you tell your friend, do you tell somebody that you really care about that you don't like the fact that they're hitting their kids? I've got some ideas, but what's on your mind?
I think that as we've experienced time and time again in our own lives, parenting is such a personal thing, and you have to have a pretty tight relationship with someone to be able to point out, I guess a weakness or a flaw in their parenting without it completely and utterly destroying the relationship. Chances are you're going to say something and it's actually just going to sever the relationship you have with that friend, as opposed to help them make changes to the way they do things.
Yeah, the best thing that you can do is to be a calm influence and to be a calm example with your own kids, so that they say, how do you do it? How do you stay so calm? How do you not hit your kids? And then you give them the opening, but I wouldn't be pursuing it either. In Australia, in fact, in the Western world, we do such a terrible job of parenting. Like we actually do it all on our own. We get cranky. We act like children ourselves. There is so much that we don't get right. When you look cross-culturally at the way other people, other nations, other cultures raise their kids, there's a sense of community, there's additional people lifting the load and lightening the load, and there's also an expectation that as parents we keep it under control to be an example to our children of what it is to keep it under control. This is something that is not going to go away for this person until they learn to control themselves instead of trying to control their children. And trying to talk to somebody about it, I think, is just a big mistake. So I'm going to say don't do it. But thanks so much for... We love getting your voice memos. So please keep on sending those through, podcasts at happyfamilies.com.au. Also, this is a heartbreaking email that came through, Kylie, from somebody who I'm also going to keep anonymous. They're a regular emailer to the Happy Families podcast, though, and I want to share this with you. This one comes from somebody overseas, and she says, as I listened to your podcast this morning on smacking, I had tears in my eyes because Kylie and Justin's story seems to be spot on with how I was raised and how I had to make a concerted effort to learn new skills and help foster a more positive environment for my daughters. I was often slapped across the face as a child if I was talking back or arguing or not in complete compliance. While I was never smacked, I was slapped across my face frequently, which was very painful and created a lot of fear in my childhood. As an adult, I have anxiety and often second guess my choices and decisions. I don't often feel confident speaking up, and while I've been working on this, it makes me quite uncomfortable when I'm responded back with yelling or the silent treatment, which creates this level of discomfort and shame that overwhelms me at times. I would say that now, as an almost 42-year-old, I did not turn out fine and have suffered a strained and painful relationship at times with my mother. Even to this day, she says, I had to because you never listened to me. What a powerful response to that podcast. Thank you so much for sending that email through. We love your feedback. Voice memos, emails, send them to podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. Kylie, for I'll Do Better Tomorrow, today, I've got a story. You've got a story. We both want to be more intentional as parents. Let's get to those stories right after the break. Dads are pretty awesome. Just ask me. Today, more dads are more involved with their children's lives than ever before, and research shows that their children are really benefiting from it. But too often, dads don't realise just how vital they really are. In the Dadding Done Right webinar, join me as I examine how dads can be a fantastic support, the ideal role model, and an excellent all-round best dad ever. Check out Dadding Done Right at the Happy Families webshop.
It's the Happy Families podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. I'm interested in your story.
Pick me. Okay, so I've just finished reading a book. I made a big deal about it yesterday in the podcast, Hunt, Gather, Parent. Just finished reading this amazing book by Michaeline Duclef. Michaeline is an Irish name, apparently, and I got to have a chat with her during the week. Michaeline Duclef, it's a New York Times bestseller, and she went and visited these different cultures, these different places around the world, and took her 2-year-old daughter with her so that she could experience it with her baby and learn about how they parent compared to how we do it. And I don't recommend parenting books very often because, frankly, the only ones that I recommend are the ones that I write. But this was such a good book. I know I raved about it yesterday, so I'll stop. But had an experience on the weekend that was related to what I read in the book. So in the book, Michaeline describes how in these cultures, they don't force their kids to do things, even chores. But they do expect that they will contribute. They also, though, don't expect their kids to go and do chores on their own. They do tasks together. So I'm thinking on the weekend as I'm cleaning up some leaves in the garden, why am I doing this on my own? I should have some children helping me. So I called out to Lilli, our 12-year-old, and Emily, our 8-year-old. Hey, girls, come and give me a hand with the leaves. Lilli, 12 years old, she rolled her eyes, she stomped her foot, she thought, I mean, she didn't want to clean up leaves, but she's 12, so she held herself together and she came out and helped me anyway. But Emily, our 8-year-old with ADHD, she's walked out and she's like, I'm not cleaning up leaves. I hate cleaning up leaves. She chucked a bit of a fit and off she walked. Now, in the book, Michaeline says that in these tribes, they would ask with an expectation that a child would help, but they would not force the child. And if the child chose not to, they would just shrug their shoulders and let it go, because there's something inside our children that makes them want to be where we are and makes them want to contribute. They want to feel like they're big kids doing big jobs. So she said, when you ask the question, wait 5 minutes before you ask again. And I mean, typically if I ask the kids to do something and they don't do it, I'll give them 15 seconds, maybe 10. And then I'll walk over to them and I'll meet their eyes and I'll say, I asked you to do something, now come and do it. And I'm pretty hardcore. Like I'm pretty clear about my expectation. Anyway, I decided to let it go. I decided I would give Emily 5 minutes before I extended the invitation again. I probably figured the leaves would be cleaned up by then, but whatever. About 30 seconds later, she came out of the house and walked over to me and said, fine, I'll help. I just smiled and said, great. And after we'd been working side by side, the three of us, for maybe a minute, maybe 90 seconds, I realised that some of the leaves were a little bit too far into the garden and a rake would be helpful. So I went and grabbed the rake. And as I started to rake, Emily said, I want to do it. I want to do it. Now, here's the other thing that Michaeline says in her book, Hunt, Gather, Parent. She says, we give so much direction to our kids. We're constantly telling them what to do. Kind of ties in with the thing that I'm always talking about with correction and direction versus connection. And she said in these ancient cultures, what they do is they just let them do it and they encourage them while they're doing it. And then later they teach them how they can do it better. So there's not much instruction until they've already been doing it and the child is open in the instruction. So I handed Emily the rake and said, sure thing, but I want to make sure the soil doesn't end up on the grass. If you can do that, go for it. She made such a mess. She was doing the worst job ever. And it took everything inside me to not say anything to her and just let her rake the leaves. And I was working beside her and pulling the leaves out as she was moving the dirt everywhere, including onto the grass. But after a couple of minutes, she said, Dad, I'm spilling the soil all over the grass and you don't want me to do that, do you? I said, no. She said, could you help me? And so I spent about 20 seconds showing her how she could rake without putting soil everywhere. And then we cleaned up the mess that she'd made. She worked out in the garden with me for, I reckon, 10 or 15 minutes with no encouragement, with no, not that I praise them anyway, but with no praise, with no cajoling or coercion. She just helped and she was glad for it. And we got to spend time together. And I just thought, this is amazing. Extend the invitation. Don't pester them. Just give them their agency. And then when they decide to help, even if they're making a mess of it, just let them keep on helping anyway and tidy it up afterwards, maybe with a little bit of encouragement and instruction when it's all said and done. It was amazing. I'm so excited about it. I felt like it was, I'm going to sound like I've got a big head here, Kylie, and I don't mean to, but I kind of feel like I know a lot about parenting and I feel like I do it pretty well most of the time. But this has changed so much for me. I feel like this has been a really big aha moment and I loved the experience.
So I'm wondering what would have happened if she hadn't have come out. How would you have felt then? And how would you have dealt with it?
I would have given her 5 minutes and then gone and extended the invitation again. And if she chose not to, I would have just let it go. Literally, just let it go. It's not worth the fight. It's not worth the big hassles and dramas around control and you've got to do as I say. It's just not worth it. But here's the crazy thing. She did. She did come back out because I gave her the space to let that little voice inside her head, let those little feelings inside her heart that crave connection, I let those do their job. And as a result, she came and got involved.
So I think the biggest challenge that we have as parents is the conflict between screens and technology and wanting to spend time with us. Because I recognise and see when our kids aren't on screens, they're actually really compliant and really willing to be helpful. But as soon as screens get involved, it's a game changer.
I've been thinking about that since I read the book and since I had that experience. And I'm utterly convinced that this works perfectly unless screens are in the way, which has highlighted to me, and we haven't talked about it yet, we're having the conversation for the first time right now, but it highlights to me how important it is that we really work with our kids on helping them to utilize their screens in ways that don't interfere with how we function in our family and in our relationships.
Nice one.
So what's yours?
So I often talk about being a little bit spontaneous, letting go of the routine.
Yeah.
And over the weekend, we had our eldest and her husband come and stay with us in our tiny little house.
Yep.
And the sleepover room with 4 kids became sleepover room with 6 kids. Meantime, the trucks arrived and our house has been turned upside down with the second load of stuff.
So when we moved out of our house, just for context, we filled 2 small shipping containers. When we moved to the new house, we unloaded the one with all the essential stuff. And it's been so comfortable having all this space and having empty cupboards and just having what we need to get through. But now the second container has arrived and, oh my goodness, I think we've got to get rid of at least half of it, right?
But you've got to open them all up and go through them to work out what's needed and what's not.
And then you've got to work out how to get rid of it. Man.
So anyway, it's a bit chaotic. So on top of all of that, I invite our daughter and her husband to come and stay the night with us. And meantime, Miss Lilli, who has been 12 for a few months now, has been dying to watch She's the Man.
Oh, yeah, I know where you're going with
I
this.
don't know where the tradition started, but the girls have taken on the mother role and have told us she's not allowed to watch it until she's 12 because somewhere along the line, somebody had to wait until they were 12 to watch it, and that's been the go for forever.
Yeah, so our second daughter, Abby, watched it when she was 12. When Ella wanted to watch it, we said, well, I'll wait till you're 12 because Abby had to. And then it was Annie and now it's Lily. Everyone has to wait till they're 12 before they watch She's the Man.
So Lily has been waiting for months because every time she asks if we can do it, somebody's not home because we all have to be there.
Yep.
So with Jared and Chanel at home, I kind of said to them, how do you feel about having a movie night? We'll watch She's the Man. They were just awesome sports. And so we all sat down. You got stuck in the kitchen. I have to admit that was a bit sad, but you didn't actually want to watch it, did you?
No. I would rather have flaming bamboo shoots stuck under my nails than sit down and watch She's the Man, or most movies for that matter.
One of our children knows all the lines,
Yes.
like all the lines. And as we're watching the movie, she's repeating it, and Lily's eyes are popping as she's going, oh, now I know what that line means. But it was such a joy to have everybody in the room together and just enjoying time together.
So there was you, and my mum watched it with you, and then there was Chanel and Jared.
Jared did fall asleep.
And then the other 4 kids. So there was like 7 or 8 people laying around in the lounge room watching She's the Man. I finished the kitchen, then went to my bedroom and read. I was reading Micheline de Clef's book. I wanted to get it finished, Hunt Gather Parent, because it was so good. But all I heard for an hour and a half was raucous, uproarious laughter as the family laid on the couch and had a movie night, which, because I hate movies as a general rule, and I certainly don't like watching kids' movies very much, we don't do that stuff. And it did. I came out and joined in for 5 or 10 minutes towards the end, and it was a lot of fun.
Just the highlight. It really was a highlight. Highlight to have, our eldest daughter who lives away from home, who loves coming back home to us and spending time together, and just seeing all of the kids together and
Grandma.
Just enjoying time. And I was just so grateful that in spite of the fact that there was so much I could have done, boxes, scattered all through the house.
Still are.
And I could have, spent the evening trying to kind of create more order, that I just took time to be with them. I've watched the movie a bajillion times and I really didn't have to sit down, but it was such a feel-good moment.
We really hope that you've got some parenting inspiration from this podcast today. The take-home messages are pretty clear. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media, and Craig Bruce is our executive producer. If you'd like more info about how you can make your family happier, visit us at happyfamilies.com.au and have a great weekend.